Hi, you're watching Homoludens, the channel on history and board games, and I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. So this is the traditional Christmas unboxing where I talk about the Secret Wargame Santa. This is going to be more of a rambling video. I haven't written anything, so it's more also to reflect on what happened next year and also think about what the channel is going to be in 2023. So as I said, every year I do the Secret Wargame Santa, and the idea is that you have a secret target and you have yourself a secret Santa and you figure out some information about your target and you send them games. Last year I got 2 games and some expansions that I was really happy about. So I got a few Acres of Snow. Whoop. This is probably the game that I ended up from my package last year playing the most, by Martin Wallace. I had never played it. I had played Hands in the Sea before. I had a lot of fun with it this year, and I'm going to keep on playing it next year. I really like the system. I hope that more designers pick up the system. It was a really, really cool gift. And then I had a second one, Days of Ire, about the insurrection in Budapest in 1956, with the expansion by Brian Train. I haven't played the expansion yet, but I played this one. I was quite pleasantly surprised. It was a really interesting game, a lot more asymmetric than what I thought. So also really, really cool. So to my Secret Santa last year, thanks again. Those were 2 awesome picks. For this year, my target was a guy called Luis from Madrid. And he had a very interesting and quite diverse wish list. And what I ended up picking up for him is a combo that if I hadn't have them, I would love to have. So I thought it was a good pick. And that was Virsin das Volk, the base game and the expansion that were pretty high on his list. So I bundled them up. And what I did is I ordered the game through Snafu Store, which is a really good Spanish war game shop. And the thing is that they also designed their own and published their own war games. And they had this game with amazing artwork by Niels called Equatorial Clash. So I also added this one on top, thinking that would be a nice small addition to the package. And the people at Snafu were really awesome because they realized it was potentially for Wargame Santa. So they reached out just to confirm, and they added a very nice handwritten note, added some postcard games on top of it. So I hope Louis, if you're watching this video, that you're having a Merry Christmas and that you're enjoying those games. And if so, please let me know in the comments or send me a DM on BGG. I would love to know how you, if you're having fun with the games. And so here we are, and the idea is for me to unpack this package for this year and actually figure out what I got from my Secret Santa. So I had a few exchange with that person. I don't know who they are, but basically at first they struggled to find a way to have me ship something in the UK. So maybe they didn't really had their first pick, but they finally find something that they were happy with. So I'm not sure what it is. We'll see about that. I'm sure it would be awesome. That's not really a concern. What I was thinking about this video, I actually rewatched the unboxing from last year, and surprisingly I've been pretty good in my prediction about, or at least in my resolution about what I wanted to do for this year. So I think that probably those videos are doing a good job at giving that perspective on what's my mindset and what I set myself to do, which is surprising for me because, as I said, I mostly work through vibes, so I'm not really good at planning. And it was a good year, I must say, for the channel. Probably the best year for the channel this year, 2022. Released 42 videos on the channel, or videos or streams, and I'm not counting the first short that I did. I'm not sure I'm going to do more of that, we'll see. But yeah, 42 contents, so that's actually probably the most productive year I ever had. We started the podcast also with the people from the Homoludens Discord server, so I think around half a dozen podcasts, so that was also really cool. We gained 2,000 subs, also probably one of my best year, I would say. And I mean, in terms of content, there was a lot of really good content, but the thing that made me really happy is the interview of Cole Werle and Matt Calkins, which were 2 people that were really high on my list of interviews that I wanted to do on that channel, so I felt like a bit achievement unlocked. And I think probably the thing that has been the most influential on me feeling that it was a success was actually setting up that community of backers on Discord. So setting up that Ko-fi link so people can actually support the show, so I can buy some additional equipment. The mic that I'm using right now is paid through the coffee donation. The stand on which the camera is right now is also paid by them. So massive thanks to all of them. Really appreciate the support. But beyond that, it gives access to that Discord server, and I would say that what's happening on that server has been a massive thing for me. I think the people on there help me doing my content in more ways than they expect. So I want to, particularly to all the people who are on that Discord server, I want to send my very, very Merry Christmas specifically to you, and thanks a lot for your support. But yeah, so let's look at those first. So okay, I know what it is. Good. I'm gonna slightly hide what is here, and we're gonna start with this because there are two things. So let's look at this first thing, and that's a game that I've been wanting to have for quite a while. You know David Thompson, he's been on the show quite often. I like him a lot. He's actually been here this year for a preview of Zenki that's currently in P500, so you can check this out. And War Chest is a game that I've always wanted to own. So it is in the same system as Undaunted Normandy, a game which I like a lot, but in a more abstract version of it. And I've played it a bit, I think it was on BGA or other platforms like this. We played it with Joe, and it's a game that I really like and that I wanted to own and play a lot more, and especially own because it is physically quite a unique object. Like, it is a very nice production, and we're gonna have a quick look at this. Let's look at that. Very nice box with very nice stuff to actually sort your tokens and everything. So very, very cool. You've got the cards for the units. Very nice baggies. Makes me think about that interview that we did recently with Matt Calkins, where he's talking about the physicality of games and how important it is for him. I think that games like this are really in that mindset, like reminding us that board games are physical objects and that you need to have that physical satisfaction of interacting with them. You've got the tokens, very nice, and then you've got the main player board. I've seen on David's Twitter account that there is a fan-made 3-player version of that table. I don't know if they are planning on releasing it or anything, but if it is, I would be super curious to try it. So it's very abstract compared to Undaunted Normandy, and that's the idea. And the cards and tokens are actually replaced by those really big poker, heavy poker chips. Each of them are units, and you're building bags. And when you draw one of your unit in the bag, either you strengthen that unit or you do something with that unit that is specific to it. Pretty interesting system. So that's the first game that we got from our Secret Santa this year. My suspicion is that the next one is somewhat related to this game. So I'm going to put everything back into their box. And after this video is done, I'm going to unpack all of this and start sorting things. I really love those boxes with magnets, a bit like 300 also. Very, very cool. So that was for the first game. Awesome pick, very, very cool pick. So thanks a lot to my Secret Santa. It's not, I would say that probably it's gonna stir up a lot of debates, but I wouldn't qualify this as a war game or even a historical game. So it's a bit out of bounds for what is supposed to be the Wargame Santa, but I allow it. It's a game that I've been wanting for quite a while, and I know that my Secret Santa was struggling with finding something to be for shipping into the UK, and I think this was a great pick. So pretty excited about that, and I hope to talk about it on the channel in the future. So I talked about the good stuff of the year, and before opening the box, I want to talk about some of the bad stuff. Don't want to go too much into detail. I don't want to look or talk too much about the bad stuff, but I think it's important for me to address a few things that I wanted to talk about along the year. The first thing is that this was a rough year for me. I had a lot of mental health issues, not really linked to the channel in any way. It's almost exclusively for personal reasons. It had an impact on the channel at some points. You might see sometimes that there was gaps in my production that was mostly regular this year. So there was this. It had an impact on my work. It had an impact on a lot of different areas of my life. And one of the biggest impact that it had is that the year that Red Flag Over Paris was released, the year where I would start doing conventions to meet with players and talk about my games, well, it was the year that I couldn't travel. So that was extremely frustrating, and that actually also fueled some of the mental health issue that I had, the fact that it was also building that frustration that I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do. So it was a really rough year in that regard. It had a lot of consequences. I'm doing way better now, and that's why I'm comfortable talking about it publicly now. But I realized a lot of things also. I grew up during that time. I realized that mental health can be a really crippling issue, and it was a bit less abstract all of a sudden. When it hits you, you better understand what it really means. And I think, if anything, it probably helped me understand what a lot of people go through when they talk about mental health issue in a more tangible way, I would say. But I'm working on it. It's going very well. I've got loving people around me helping me with all those things. I don't think it will have an impact on the channel. It's just that, it just made me take a step back on a lot of things regarding my work, the life that I have, but also my relationship with content creation. So you might see some consequences of this, but not really in production, but maybe in the kind of things that I do and in the way that I do it. But that already kind of happened across the course of this year. So that was the first thing. The other thing is that it was a bit of a surprise, but we learned quite recently with my partner that we had to change flat. So this is actually probably the last video that I'm recording here at that desk. And that means that early next year is going to be pretty complicated. We're going to have to move. We think we found a flat. Maybe when this video is going to be published, actually that would be settled and we'll have had a new flat and we'll just be planning for the move. But that means that beginning of next year, probably the video production is going to be lower because I will be focusing on just setting a new home for my partner and I and making sure that we're comfortable there, and this is going to be the priority for me. It was a shitty year overall when you take into consideration quite a few of those things, and there were other personal stuff, so made it that was not that great. So that's about this for on the personal thing. More about the channel though, I've been thinking a lot more about something that I'm becoming a bit worried about in the way that I make content, and actually about making content about games in general. Games are products, it's an industry, and I'm a bit worried about participating in creating a culture that indirectly and not necessarily voluntarily creates that idea that you get validation through buying games and having a lot of games. And I'm saying this when I'm presenting this in front of that collection that I guess probably a lot of people watching this would like to have, and like I'm playing on it and I'm trying to really reflect on, is this really something positive? The thing is that I love those games, I love sharing them, I love showing them, so I need to find a balance. It's not really I don't want to be like puritanical about loving objects. I think that's okay, that's part of the hobby, but I just want to be a bit more cautious about it. I haven't fully thought through what that would mean, but I think it's something that I want to be more cautious about and think a bit more about, and I would be curious to hear what you think in the comments, so let me know what you think about this. But I think there is something in general in content creation, in board gaming, you feel like there is always a new game, there is always new stuff, and there is a bit this race at, and you create that sense of fear of missing out for the people who are viewing, but we're also creating it for ourselves. I'm not sure I know it's not healthy, and I would like to be careful about it. Still making content that is exciting and get people excited into our hobby, or at least trying to limit those side effects that I'm a bit bothered by. So that's something that I want to think about. The other thing that I want to think about is that I feel like I've almost completely stopped doing reviews, and there is something that is happening, is that I talk about a lot of games on that channel, I talk to a lot of designers, we play games, we do a lot of different stuff, but I realize that it's not really clear in the sense that I'm not really necessarily recommending those games or saying that those games are great or stuff like this. Actually, I'm pretty sure that I played some games this year that were featured on the show, and I featured them because I like the designer, because I wanted to know more about them, like even to fuel my own curiosity. I did those content, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend people to buy it, either because it's not the right game for them, and I think games need to fit with the person buying it, so I don't think that any game is for everyone, but also because I think some of those games I genuinely don't think are great. And that's also something that I want to be a bit more careful about, and I want people to understand that a game being featured on the show doesn't mean necessarily that I think that it is a great game. It doesn't mean that it is a review. Like, I have more of a, when I'm making teach and plays or interviews and stuff like this, I have a bit more of a neutral perspective. What it does say is that I was interested in that game for a wide variety of reasons, and that's why I wanted to do that content, but it doesn't say much about what I think about the game. That's a good thing that I think with the podcast. So in the podcast, we do collective reviews. So you have people from the show that are coming in and we review the game of the month. So every month on the server, we pick a game, we play it together, we learn it together, and then we review it together during the podcast. And there you will really hear unfiltered opinions. And unfiltered because I feel more comfortable giving my genuine thought about the game when there are other people around participating into the discussion, because I feel like I don't feel the weight of having to be balanced, because I feel like other people are there and they can provide that balance by providing a different perspective. And if you hear to those reviews, there are some games that I unapologetically love, and I can be completely open about that love without any limits. I think Sekigahara was a good example of that. I had nothing bad to say about it. I love this game. It was massive for me into getting into wargaming, and I could be that open about the fact that I love this game in a very personal way, with very subjective opinions, because there were other people on the podcast saying that they didn't like it that much. And on the other side, I could be very, very brutal about some games, and some reviewers or some participants to those reviews were too, because there was always those counterpoints. And I feel like this is something that I want to build up more, making sure that I have the right places to communicate my opinions, and that people understand that me featuring a game is not necessarily saying this game is great. So also something that I want to think about. Let me know in the comments what you think. And then another thing is that I still failed this year of attracting more of a woman audience on the show. It's slightly increased compared to last year. We've had some bumps here and there, but it's very low. And it looks like just having more guests, women guests on the show is probably not enough. Maybe there is something that I need to think about the types of games or maybe the topics. And that's something that I want to keep on working on. But this hasn't been a success, unfortunately. But let's look into game number 2. So we have... Okay, I'm going to pick those two things up. So there was something else. So there was a mat. I don't know what it is. I have no idea what this... I think it's just a goodie with formats of different games. Very weird. I don't understand the purpose of this. Is it for card size? Yes, card size. It's to measure card size. I'm not sure how much of a use I will have of this thing, but we'll see. It might be get thrown away during the move. And without a surprise, the second game of the box from my Secret Santa, and that's a very nice touch, is the expansion to War Chest, so War Chest Nobility. The expansion, also designed by Trevor Benjamin and David Thompson. And this expansion, if I remember well, adds a couple of, actually more than a couple, probably 4 if the icons here are correct, which I guess they are, 4 new units to add to the mix of war chest units. And this is what it is. So you have the 4 units, you've got their cards, you've got their rules specific for those units, a couple of new counters, so I guess that must come in with a special rule. Another tray with those units in there. I guess that everything can probably fit into the box, so I'll try to do this after recording this video, and we'll see how it works. But that's excellent idea. Having the 2, that's really great. Really excited about this. We'll play it probably a lot this year. It's also a game that I can play with a lot of people who traditionally would not play war games, and I don't only play war games, so that's great. So it's a good addition to the collection. So really excited about playing this. So once again, to my Secret Santa, thank you very much. Those were 2 excellent picks, and I will post on different social media platforms about my experience with it. I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of fun. To conclude this video, I want to talk a bit about what I want to do for 2023, what are my objectives, what I'm thinking about. And first of all, I want to bring back wargame ethics. I'm going to expand it to board game ethics because that goes into a direction that I want to go on, which is expanding really about talking about board games that are historical and not only war games. And the next episode is going to be a collaboration with Louis, who I met through the Discord server that I mentioned before. Awesome guy that writes amazing articles about video games and gaming in general and gaming culture. So super interesting person. He's working with me on working on that ethics panel. Might be a 2-part series. We'll see. But bringing back that format, which I think is a great format, and haven't worked enough on it. It requires a lot of work. Those are tough topics, but I think it's worth it, and I think this is something important, and something that I like about my channel is that we can have those discussions, and I want to do more of that. So that's the first thing. So we're going to do one on colonialism and its depiction in board games, and I'm thinking about future topics for board game ethics. If you have ideas of topics, please post them in comments. Happy to have the discussion there. I think that could be a really interesting chat. But the other thing, and that's connected to what I just said, is that I want to have more and deeper collaborations when it comes to making content. I think it's the way to go for me, and when I mean deeper collaboration, it's not just having a guest, which is mostly what I've been doing this year. I want to really make content with people, or even potentially having people make content for the channel with limited involvement from my part. I can take part in editing, I can give advice in the writing or the format and stuff like this, making sure that it fits within the editorial line of the channel, but potentially having people coming from the outside making content for the channel, and having Homo Ludens not being a friend channel, but maybe something that I lead or give a direction for, and not even lead that much, because I think discussing and having those discussions with other people and thinking collaboratively about it is also something that I'm really open about, but making this more of a collective channel more than anything else. The experience on the podcast is something that I wanted to do, and I think those collective reviews are just doing exactly what I want them to do, and I feel, well, there is strength in number. I've always known that, but I think it also works in the context of a channel like Homo Ludens, so a channel on a very niche topic. So I'm going to try to encourage this. I'm going to try to collaborate with other content creators, but also potentially bringing new creators and making them part of my show. I don't want this to prevent them from doing their own things, but I would like to have more people taking part in this. The other thing, and you might have seen this, and you might have heard in what I'm saying between the lines, what I want to do is I want to expand also the topics for multiple reasons. First of all, because I don't only play war games, I also play a lot of board games, and I want to expand the range of what we're talking about on this channel. Always have the same angle. It's a channel about history and board games. So either I talk about board games as their role in history, so maybe the evolution of board gaming as an industry or different board games that existed in the past, so looking at board games from an historical perspective, or looking at board games in the way they depict history. So that will always be the topic. It's just that I think that board game is not necessarily the only place where that can be. And Obsession was a good example of this, and I'm planning this year on having even more games that are gonna be non-war game at all, just historical board games. So that's also something that I want to open up to. Maybe having also more academic guests. We had a few this year, and I enjoyed that quite a lot. I think it's interesting to bring in very informed and thought-provoking perspective. So that's also something that I want to work on. And then talking about this culture of buying games and stuff like this, I think I'm going to start, I know I'm going to start doing some giveaway session. So once in a while, having sessions where myself, but also other people might offer their games for free, maybe for shipping or for any kind of payment, and the money that would be collected for payments could be given to charity. I'm still thinking about the format, also interested in hearing your thoughts about this, but I have this idea that I could have a few people also from my network giving away games in different areas of the world to make sure that there is always a nice shipping option if you're interested in some of those games. And if we collect any money, making sure it goes to charity, but making sure that the game flows. If they're not being played here, well, they should be played into your house, and doing those kind of stuff. So that's something that I want to work on. And then, yeah, just being more careful about my mental health. That's also something that I want to keep in mind. And that means that taking a step away from content making when I need it, not make content because I feel like I need to, and just in a lot of ways, I feel like this channel has done everything that I wanted it to do when I started. So I feel a lot more relaxed. And I think I'm just going to focus on doing what I feel is what I need to do, and not putting pressure too much on myself. But I want to say thanks to all of you for watching. Thanks for being here. Your ongoing support is what drives me in doing what I do. So thanks to all of you. Have a very Merry Christmas. Enjoy this time with your family and see you next year.